we want to welcome you to our annual Marches in March concert. This opens our concert part of the year. We started this Salute to Marches about 3 years ago. United States Marines came up with a program where they honor marches by dealing with a program that they call March Madness. And it goes along with, of course, the NCAA. And they even have brackets where they put marches against marches and have people to vote on them and those kinds of things. The United States Marine Band, they're one of the most prolific, famous composers, John Philip Sousa, which has a plethora of marches out there, really brought that to fruition in the United States. And so this is a little bit of education through the medium of entertainment. And we wanted just to present this portion of it, and hopefully this will be a teaser that will get you to come back and bring some friends and hear our spring concert, which will be later on in April. So before we move forward, I just ask that you would do this for us. We have our own UAPB-TV that is also recording. We also are live streaming. We're going to ask that you would please be courteous enough not to walk during the performances, and make sure that if you have any type of electronic device that is going to interfere or disrupt the program, that you be sure you disable those items at this time. Sitting in front of you is the UAPB concert band, which is under the direction of Mr. Fuster and Mr. Evans. Their credentials are listed in the program. Just a little brief synopsis about the marches. In honor of Independence Day, Jack Kopstein thought it would be nice to give a short history of American march music. These are his words. A short history of marches. The origins of European and American march music can be traced to the military music of the Ottoman Empire. The martial purpose of the music was to regulate the functioning of armies in the field by communicating orders and keeping time during marching and maneuvers. The extensive use of percussion, such as cymbals, was also used for psychological effect as their use, especially in Western Europe, was unknown and had the capability to frighten opponents. Indeed, the subsequent use of cymbals and other such percussive instruments in European classical music was a direct importation from the Ottomans. In the early 1700s, Europeans were first exposed to this type of music, and interest would continue to build into the early 1800s, when a vogue for Turkish marching bands swept through Europe. Pieces displaying this Turkish influence can be found in the works of Mozart, Haydn, and Beethoven, with a notable example being Turkish March by Beethoven. The origins of march music began before the Gunpowder Age, during which armies would maintain their troops' morale by marching with music playing, whether that be from the beat of a drum or a fife, which is kind of like a flute. American march music showed during the Revolutionary War and earlier wartime conflicts, in which a fife and snare drum would play while the troops marched to battle. This is why it can be said that march music is a military's music. While the tradition of soldiers playing music while marching into battle had ended soon after the American Civil War, which was the mid-1800s, military bands continued to perform marches during related ceremonies and other events. This actually spawned a whole new tradition of playing marches as a source of entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we welcome you to this concert, and we would like to ask that you would join me in welcoming Mr. Darrell Evans and the UAPB Concert Band. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harold Fuster.
Before we play the next march, the first march you just heard was the National Emblem March, which John Philip Sousa said this is one of the 3 greatest marches that was ever wrote. And of course, the other 2 were the ones he said that he wrote, which was Stars and Stripes and I believe some Fidelis. But the reason I bring that up is because this next march is written by John Philip Sousa. And what's different about it, as you read in the program, that of course that he was a Shriners, but it's also that it's one of the few marches that is written in a minor key. So it has a distinct sound to it that's quite different from other marches. All right, before we play our last march for tonight, I want to say that there's going to be just a slight, maybe 10-minute intermission as we leave the stage and set up for the Wind Symphony to give them a chance to warm up and get prepared for them. So just bear with us for those 10 minutes. And then I just want to acknowledge these students here. This is the first concert of the spring session, and we've been working extremely hard, and we have another our spring concert. This is the marches in March. We'll have our spring concert in April. I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but I know it's like the third week in April, the third Thursday in April, wherever that date is. But we'll get that out to you. Well, anyhow, our last march of the night, Rolling Thunder.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We want to welcome you back to Marches in March. The dynamic group of ladies and gentlemen you see before you is the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff Wind Symphony under the direction of Mr. John R. Graham Jr. Mr. Graham is a native of Little Rock, Arkansas. He received his bachelor's and master's degree at the University of Central Arkansas. This is his 25th year here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff Wind Symphony under the direction of Mr. John R. Graham Jr. Before we continue, ladies and gentlemen, we just want to give you a little more background information about marches. And first of all, let's talk about marches in the concert band. Around the late 1800s and early 1900s, most towns, organizations, theaters, and even companies would have their own band. These bands, currently known today as community bands, would perform their music at special events much like the military band, but would often play at simple scheduled concerts and tours, such as the traditional gazebo concerts. By this time, published marches were plentiful due to prolific composers such as John Philip Sousa, Carl L. King, and Henry Fillmore. Marches became a staple in the repertoire of these concert bands and can hence explain how the popularity of the march spread so rapidly across the world. One more little tidbit about marches and the circus. Marches were further popularized with performances by circus bands. During the same period of the community band concert band, circuses such as the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus would have live music being performed by their own bands. The marches played were often a special variety of the march known descriptively as screamers, two-steps, and cakewalks. These marches served the purpose of exciting the crowd while circus acts were taking place. All right, more to come. Ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of more March trivia for you. Marches in the marching band. Again, during the same period, college marching bands were also beginning to form. March composers would often dedicate marches to university bands. Marches were performed during halftime shows and pep rallies. Marches were indeed heard everywhere. A little bit about the March King, John Philip Sousa, and the John Philip Sousa Revolution. American composer John Philip Sousa did indeed strongly revolutionize the march. His overall prolific writing of said quality marches added that much to its popularity. According to Sousa researcher Paul Beerley, Sousa's marches were gems of simplicity and understatement, with rousing counterpoint and overall energy. Sousa also is said to have standardized the traditional march form. American march music immortalized with Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever, a patriotic march which became the official march of the United States of America. And last but not least, a little trivia about march music composers. Most march composers come from the United States or Europe and have some sort of musical background to them. The most popular march composers existed in the late 1800s and early 1900s, mainly because modern march dedicators are hard to come by. So just a little bit of enlightenment about marches, and I now return you to your regularly scheduled programming already in progress.
Before we play this next march, it's a circus march. How many of you have been to the circus or seen the circus? Okay. This march is one of the more famous marches, the Barnum and Bailey's favorites. During this march, you should be able to hear spots in here where the ringmaster would draw your attention to different things such as horses galloping, the trapeze, the high wire act. Those things are going to go on in this ensemble. If we do our job, will hopefully help you envision Barnum and Bailey's favorites. For the next march that we're going to play, and we're glad that we have, while we're doing this, before we move any further, if there are any of the administrators for the university who are in the audience, we'd like for you to stand. I see some of our faculty. Would you all faculty that are here? Dr. Woods, I see you. Trumpet instructor. I want to thank you for being here. Also, we have parents of our students who are on stage. Those of you who are parents, would you please stand that are here? I notice a couple of you who have made the trip. Okay, several of you. We thank you. And as you see, the parents don't have to let you know that they're your parents. They just step up and just say, here I am. So we're so thankful that you're here. Also, I want to just pay tribute also to, we have several other people who are in the background doing things. Also, I don't know if Miss Pierce stood, Miss Sissy Pierce, she's on one of our adjuncts. Miss Pierce, right here. She's our woodwind. Finally, I wanted to recognize, we have our band fraternity and sorority. You're going to notice there's some refreshments. Tau Beta Sigma band sorority is responsible for that. Some of you all are out here. Where are you, Tau Beta Sigma? So they can see they're taking care of your refreshments. We have also the Brothers of Kappa Kappa Psi honorary band fraternity incorporated is also helping us move things back and forth. We also have alumni who are in the audience that are sitting here. And I'm going to ask our alumni of our university and of our band, would you please stand? Mr. Alzester and Mr. Thomas. Thank you. I see you. Okay, there you go. Without those people out there, we wouldn't be standing right here now. So the next selection we're going to go on, which is very fitting because this has to do with unity. This march is entitled Americans We. Henry Fillmore. before we end, first of all, I would like to ask all of our students who are not in the band program but came out to support the band, would you all please stand? You are very important. Okay. We want to thank you guys and your enthusiasm. We appreciate you. One of the things that I can say, a lot of times it feels good to see you and for you to be excited about your peers, and this is very important. And so I can't thank you enough. I can't thank the staff, everybody who put something into it, our department, Mrs. Taylor, Ms. Early, a lot of people behind the scenes are working to make this come to fruition. It's a lot in our music department. We have a total music department here at UAPB. Concert programs are dying all across the country. And if we don't have this as a place, we are a fully accredited music program, fully accredited. And that goes on the backs of the people who worked so hard tirelessly before I even came to the university. That's the way we found it. And then one day when I do leave, I hope to leave it in better shape. The music majors, I want to acknowledge those music majors that are on the stage, music majors. And those of you who are standing, yeah, stand. Those of you in the audience, all music majors. For our last selection, America's March. America's March. Stars and Stripes Forever, featuring Brandolyn Woody. We want to thank you. I wish we had more, but come back. We got something even more special later on down the road. We thank you all for being here. There's cake and punch and stuff out there. Save some for me.